When people first settled here in Philadelphia and in most of the large cities in the U.S., what they would do was build their houses along the edges of the creek. The idea with that was that if they had any waste they wanted to get rid of, they just used the creeks as open source. There were few enough people that that wasn't an issue, and they just dumped everything in there. There wasn't that much to dump at the time.
And the plants probably filtered it.
The plants filtered as much, you know, a lot, because there weren't that many people. But as our population grew, that became more and more of an issue, right? You get more houses. You have not only, eventually you build pipes from the houses, right? That's going to make it easier, so you can flush your toilets, you can get things down there more easily. Eventually, you have too many pipes going into the creek. You have too much sewage going into the creek, dirty water from the homes, and then the other thing that they did was they attached the storm drains in the streets to the same pipes that were taking the sewage from the houses. So now you have rainwater and sewer water all mixing together and going to the creek, which was a good plan in terms of keeping the flooding from happening on the new streets and things, but not such a good plan in that, well, let me back up to say, it worked relatively well for a while, but as our population grew, that got really, really, really gross. So you can imagine as we have more impervious surfaces, more of these surfaces that are capping the land, you've got more and more rainwater going in. So eventually, they decided that was nasty, and they put in interceptor pipes underneath the pipes that are coming from your house. So if you imagine you have a creek here, and you have a house, and you have your little pipe going into the creek, and you have your storm drain here on the street, right, that's taking water. So you've got water coming from the storm drain, you've got water coming from the house, and that's all dumping into the creek. Again, it's okay if it's one house, not so good if it's 1,000 houses, right? So what they did was they built a large pipe that goes along the edge of the creek, and they built it right underneath the interceptor pipes that were headed to the creek, and they put a hole in those pipes from the homes. And so now what's happening is instead of that water going into the creek, the water is going down the hole and into this interceptor pipe. That interceptor pipe follows the edge of the creek all the way down to the sewage treatment plant, where then that water is cleaned the way nature would have done initially. It was a pretty good system for a while, but we're at a point now where we have paved over so much of the land that I talked about before. Part of what the land is doing is absorbing that water. If we keep the land from absorbing the water, then it's all going down these storm drains. So this pipe system was built about 100 years ago. Since then, our population has grown a whole lot, and we've built many more houses, many more streets, many more everything. And so now the water, there's a huge, huge amount of water going down there that these pipes were not built to be able to handle. So
does all the water go into the interceptor pipe?
the issue is, if they cap the end of these pipes and we get a really heavy rain, then it's going to back up back into people's homes, right? So instead, and onto the streets too, that's the one that I always picture. And instead, they left the ends open. And back when they created these pipes, that was a really good plan, because it was really only once in a blue moon that there was going to be a storm big enough to overflow those pipes, because there weren't as many streets, not as much impervious surface. Now we have much more of all of those things, and so pretty much every time it rains, we have sewage going into the creek, because these pipes just can't handle hardly any rain. They're pretty much handling sewage.